Welcome, I'm Catherine Hadro, and this is EWTN Pro-Life Weekly. Pro-life success. The Texas State Senate passed a wave of pro-life bills during Holy Week. We tell you what you need to know and how pro-lifers in the Lone Star State continue to stand up for life. Defending life from womb to tomb. Archbishop Joseph Naumann, the U.S. Bishop's pro-life chair, opens up about a personal family tragedy and how it both shaped his desire to protect the unborn and call for the abolishment of the death penalty. Grieving a loss. Legislation in New Zealand now offers paid leave to couples who lose a child to miscarriage. Catholic writer and thinker Leah Libresco Sargeant shares her reaction on the difference this can truly make for mothers and fathers amidst that suffering. Happy Easter. The Texas Senate passed 6 pro-life bills during Holy Week, ranging from a heartbeat bill to a bill that guards against the expansion of chemical abortion drugs.
When I hear a person's beating hard, I just don't hear their heart. I hear their soul speaking, and I listen carefully. As all of you well know by now, I am pro-life, but more than that, I am pro-lifetime, from conception to natural death.
That is Texas State Senator Lucio, a Catholic and pro-life Democrat who authored the pro-life bill banning the use of medical abortions after the 7th week of pregnancy. Another pro-life bill that passed the state Senate is the heartbeat bill, which would ban abortions after the detection of a fetal heartbeat. The Texas Senate also passed a trigger law which would ban abortion entirely in the state if the Supreme Court overturns Roe v. Wade. Those bills were all part of a wave of a total of 6 pro-life bills passed through the state Senate last week. Abortion is currently legal in Texas through 5 months of pregnancy. Joining us now is that Texas State Senator you saw, Lucio Jr., a Catholic and pro-life Democrat. Welcome to the show. The Texas State Senate passed your pro-life bill last week. It was one of 6 that passed. Why is it important to you to pass legislation to protect against the expansion of chemical abortion drugs in Texas?
Well, first of all, I oppose abortion, as you well know. I've spent a lifetime, your lifetime, here as a legislator. I've been a legislator for 35 years now in the House and the Senate, most of which have been in the Senate. But I'm a pro-lifetime, actually, type of person, from conception to natural death. And this bill is important, even though I don't support abortion. I do support the fact that the drugs that are administered to induce the abortion should not be mailed to the woman. It should be all precautions should be taken. They should be taken in front of a doctor if they're going to be taken, because the life of the mother obviously is most important to the family as well. So it wasn't hard for me to accept the challenge of taking this, even though I kind of feel badly that we just haven't outlawed abortion at this time.
Do you think the abortion lobby, particularly in Texas, was using the coronavirus pandemic as an excuse to really push for the expansion of abortion drugs on women?
I don't, I think the pandemic caused a lot of problems, but it's not going to stop anybody. If somebody wants to have one, they're going to go to whatever means is necessary. We have to address issues legislatively. If we can address issues legislatively to hold back, abortion from happening, and have an opportunity to counsel the women that are seeking the abortion, but we have a chance to slow the process down. We might have a chance to actually save a lot of lives. And that's what we've done over the years. We have a job to do, and that is to show each other that we love each other, we care for one another, we want to be understanding and caring, but we have a job to save lives, and our job is to make sure that the woman that is seeking the abortion obviously gets the support that she needs in order for her to sustain her own life, and more importantly, to have a chance to get to maybe have her change her mind.
Eddie, you are Catholic. On the Texas Senate floor, you quoted Cardinal Jorge Bergoglio, now Pope Francis, on the life issue. How does your Catholic faith shape your pro-life beliefs?
Well, I look up to the Pope and the Conference of Bishops. I follow their, but I have my own, the one that I grew up with as a child. I'm one of 10 kids. There were actually 9 of us, and my mother and father had such a compassionate heart. They adopted a 4-month-old baby girl that was dying, and she's my sister now. She's 67 years old today, and we love her dearly. So we were shown to and taught to be good neighbors and caring persons that we ought to be in this, and respect humanity. So it's not hard for me to look at the gospel of the day, for me to look at the teachings of our Lord Jesus Christ and try to imitate them if I can.
You're also a pro-life Democrat. It seems there are fewer and fewer pro-life Democrats throughout the U.S. Do you feel welcome in your own party with your pro-life views, and explain why you are a pro-life Democrat?
Well, I'm a pro-life Democrat, but more importantly, I'm just a pro-life person. I don't think the pro-life or pro-choice it's a party issue. Pro-life is something that shows that we care about human life, and we respect the sanctity of life. And I am at times by myself, out of the 13 Democrats in the Senate that votes on these issues by myself. But I would work with whoever on both sides of the aisle want to show respect for life, and that's who I am. I certainly feel that everyone should be pro-life.
Absolutely. We only have about a minute left, but I want to bring up this question. When you were running for re-election, Planned Parenthood and other abortion groups targeted you and called you Sucio Lucio, which means dirty Lucio, largely seen to be a racial slur. This is our first time speaking, State Senator, so I'm interested in your thoughts on how Planned Parenthood has attacked you in Texas.
I was disappointed with Planned Parenthood. They're truly an abortion clinic. They had to change their name immediately, and stop fooling people that they plan for parenthood, because they don't. But I also was disappointed with my opponent and those that opposed me for using those kind of slurs. We never did that. We respect people, and we welcome people to our way of thinking. But if they don't, that's their choice. God gives us the will to choose. That's the greatest power we have. And I choose that power to do his work. I'm just a messenger.
Eddie Lucio Jr., Texas State Senator, thank you for your time and your leadership.
It's a pleasure. God bless you all. And may we see it brighter tomorrow.
God bless. Joining us now is Jessica Colón, the Texas lobbyist for the Susan B. Anthony list via Skype. Jessica, welcome to the show. You work in Texas and work closely with pro-life lawmakers like State Senator Eddie Lucio. But why does it matter to pro-lifers across America that the Texas State Senate passed this bill to stop the expansion of chemical abortion drugs? Could there be a national repercussion to this?
Only positive repercussions with legislation being passed in any state legislature that brings chemical abortion regulations into state law. Chemical abortion flies under the radar for many, even in the pro-life community. These are pill-induced abortions. These are dangerous drugs. These are drugs that are turning our dorm rooms into the new abortion clinic. They're also called do-it-yourself abortions. These are very dangerous drugs and abortions and girls are enduring them alone. So any law that's passed that brings these chemical abortion regulations into state law, into state statute, is positive for the country.
It's really clearly stated. Thank you. The Texas State Senate passed 6 pro-life bills last week, seen as a great pro-life success. But Jessica, what do you say to critics calling those bills an infringement to health care?
These bills save lives. These bills protect women. Our bill for Susan B. Anthony lists one of our legislative priorities regarding chemical abortion. These regulations that we're looking to bring in are currently at the FDA, and many states don't have them codified in state law. And these regulations help protect women. It's the basics, making sure that a doctor confirms that a woman's pregnant, making sure a woman doesn't have an ectopic pregnancy, making sure that it's a doctor dispensing the drugs to the girl and not a third party. This is safe for women. This protects women and it protects their bodies, but it also saves babies. So abortion is not health care. That's the bottom line. Abortion is not health care. And there are health care that is offered in many federal programs in many states, in all states throughout the country. But abortion is not health care, and these bills protect women and they save lives.
Can you give a brief reaction to the Every Mother Matters Act? I know it requires an expecting mother seeking an abortion to receive counseling beforehand, and they are expected then to connect her with resources like Medicaid, childcare, housing, and more. Why is that important?
Well, this is an option for the woman. It's something that they have now at their disposal. It's something that needs to be offered to girls and to women to let them know what is available should they choose to keep the baby. There are many programs, and there is a lot of aid that is out there for single mothers and for young mothers. And that is what this bill does, is link the information to this young person, to this woman who is going through this pregnancy, and make sure that she has the option to hear about the information that's available for her. You know, so many women tell the story that if they just knew that they'd have some support, that they would have kept their child. And that's what the Emma bill, Every Mother Matters, tries to accomplish.
Great. Jessica, we have just about a minute left, but I'd love to switch to another topic real quick. This week, our EWTN News Nightly White House correspondent Owen Jensen asked White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki what President Joe Biden has to say to Catholic doctors and institutions fearful that the Equality Act, if passed, would trample their conscience rights. Take a listen.
He has a difference of opinion, and he respects their difference of opinion, but he has been a supporter of the Equality Act, and he also is a practicing Catholic and attends church nearly every week.
Jessica, can you give a quick reaction to that? There are legitimate pro-life concerns with the Equality Act.
Absolutely. Look, it's not for me to judge someone else's faith. It's between them and God. I am a practicing Catholic. I follow what the church says about life. It's very clear how the Catholic Church feels about life and stands on life. And I do not agree, as many Catholics don't agree, with many of the positions that President Biden has taken in this early days of his administration on the matters of life. And we find it to be out of sync with the Catholic Church and with our teachings.
We'll have to leave it at that. Jessica Colón, Texas lobbyist for the Susan B. Anthony list. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Turning now to our next story, President Joe Biden campaigned on ending federal executions. And while the president has not spoken publicly on capital punishment since taking office, another Catholic voice is publicly advocating for the abolition of the death penalty. That would be the USCCB Pro-Life Committee chair, Archbishop Joseph Naumann. And when you hear the personal story behind his views, the reason is all the more profound. Joining us now for an exclusive interview is Archbishop Joseph Naumann of Kansas City, the chairman of the U.S. Bishops' Committee on Pro-Life Activities. Happy Easter, Your Excellency. Before we dive into this topic of capital punishment, it would be an honor if you could first speak here about the violent tragedy your own family faced while you were still an unborn child. Would you mind sharing that part of your own personal story?
Yeah, thanks, Catherine, and happy Easter to you and to all your viewers as well. Yes, my father, he was a professional baseball player for a number of years, but the Second World War interrupted his career. He survived the war, fortunately for me, and my mother was pregnant with me in December of 1948, And it was precisely a week before Christmas. He went to work that day and never came home. He was murdered on the job. He had an employee. He was a manager at an enterprise, and his employee was drunk. He sent him home, and the employee was angry and wound up coming back and stabbing my father, and unfortunately hit a necessary artery, and my father didn't survive. So my mother was 3 months pregnant with me. I have one brother who's about 2 years older, so he was under 2 at that time. And I was pretty not protected from this tragedy. I was in the safe environment of my mother's womb at that time. But it was a tragedy that affected the trajectory of our family life for decades.
How did your family even begin to seek healing? What have you found brings true healing after a violent murder takes place within a family?
Well, you know, Catherine, by the time I became old enough to kind of be asking questions and that, my mother, I think, found great strength. I know found great strength in her faith. And she told me at one point that as I was asking her about those days, that her father, my grandfather, told her, says, look, you've got 2 boys you have to raise. You've got a mission that you have to do, and you can't allow yourself to be absorbed by the grief. And as I talked to some of her friends that knew her, one of her friends told me, she said she was afraid to reach out to my mother because she didn't know what to say. I mean, people always feel that way. But she said when she did, she was so taken with my mother. You know, she was obviously grieving, but my mom was interested in her. Her friend's name was Marcella, and what was happening in her family. And she put Marcella at ease, and she still had a hope and a joy about her because she still had Jesus. She still knew that God had a mission for her and a purpose for her, and I think that's really what got her through that tragedy. And I'm so grateful to her because she never focused on that for my brother and I, that you know, she wanted us never to take on the role of a victim, but that we needed to, this was something that had happened, but the Lord had a plan for us, and he was with us, and he was going to bring some kind of good out of this.
Yes. Knowing this background, can you explain why you've been vocal about calling for an end to capital punishment? That might surprise some people. You're against it, considering your family's own encounter with murder.
Yeah, first of all, I'd say, you know, I think we as a culture, we need to do more for victims of violent crime. And I don't want to presume to speak for others on this. You know, I think every tragedy is unique, and the ways families will respond are different. But from my point of view, and from, I think what I really learned from my mother was that not to allow herself to be consumed with anger at this, but to really focus on what was ahead. And so I think for her, I'm really grateful that she never tried with my brother and I. I mean, I didn't even know the name of who the man was that killed my father until I was in 8th grade, and it came up at that time. But it wasn't something that we as a family dwelt upon. We were dwelling upon what was the Lord's plan for us now, and you know, we were blessed. My mother was surrounded by a supportive family, and her parish community was a huge help.
Praise God. And you mentioned, you know, throughout this interview, growing up with a single mother. Here you are, the U.S. Bishop's Pro-Life Chair. How has growing up with a single mother really brought insight to your work in the pro-life movement today?
Yeah, you know, my mother, this happened in a different time where abortion was not really considered really something that she ever thought about, I don't think. But she was, as I said, surrounded with a family and a community of support. And so what it said to me is that that we need to do the same for every mother, no matter what circumstances that they might be a single mother. We need to surround these mothers with a community of faith and support, much like my mother was blessed to have.
As the bishop's pro-life chair, can you explain how speaking out about both abortion and capital punishment truly is part of upholding the sanctity of human life?
Yeah, you know, our conviction comes that we believe every life is sacred. Every life, every human being is made in the image of God, first of all. But as Christians, we believe something even so much more profound, that every life is of such worth that Jesus gave us life on Calvary for each of us. And that doesn't go away even if we are the perpetrator of a violent crime. In the eyes of God, we're still made in his image, and we still have a dignity, and that the Lord came to redeem us. He was, from the cross, he was forgiving his executioners. And so I think once we understand that we need God's mercy, then we want to extend that mercy to others. So whether it's the unborn child that may be the object of a difficult pregnancy, or whether it's the criminal on death row, every life is sacred, and destroying life is never what the gospel calls us to do. I mean, there are reasons, there's self-defense and other things that sometimes we may have to take another life, but for capital punishment, our society has other alternatives, other options on how we can protect people from violent criminals and actually give them the opportunity for reform and for conversion.
Well, I just want to thank you for your vulnerability and sharing your family's own story, and for your voice in the pro-life movement. Archbishop Joseph Naumann, chairman of the U.S. Bishops' Committee on Pro-Life Activities, God bless you. Thank you.
Thanks, Catherine. God bless. Have a great Easter season.
You as well. Coming up, a well-known anchor recently tried to push his pro-abortion views onto the vice president of El Salvador. I speak out once we return. Plus, we take a look at New Zealand, where the country's parliament passed legislation legalizing paid leave for couples who suffer a miscarriage or stillbirth. Welcome back to EWTN Pro-Life Weekly. I'm Catherine Hadro. Our team caught an instance of blatant pro-abortion media bias on an American Spanish language TV network. That is this week's Speak Out segment. A well-known Univision anchor, Jorge Ramos, advocated for abortion while he recently interviewed El Salvador's vice president. Ramos interviewed Vice President Felix Ulloa in March and pressed him on how El Salvador is one of only 5 countries to ban abortions in Central America. When Ramos asked Ulloa whether he thinks abortion should be legal, the vice president answered he is for life. The questioning did not end, and Ramos began to insert his own pro-abortion opinions into the question.
No, creo que sí, creo que es una decisión de la mujer. Entonces, si es decisión de la mujer, ¿está usted de acuerdo en que el aborto sea legal o no?
That is Ramos saying, I think abortion is a woman's decision. Ramos flat out telling Ulloa he believes women have the right to kill an innocent unborn child. Ramos continued questioning Ulloa over the country's pro-life laws and said their laws were not, quote, progressive for our time. El Salvador has recognized human life from the moment of conception in its constitution. Here at EWTN Pro-Life Weekly, we are openly and proudly pro-life. It's in our name, and we don't shy away from it. But if you are going to position yourself as a broadcast without an agenda or without an opinion, you cannot make pro-abortion claims in the context of a question. Ramos is pushing a pro-abortion agenda and pro-abortion propaganda during a very serious interview. He's interviewing a high-level politician. This is yet another instance of pro-abortion media bias. We know that Planned Parenthood and other abortion lobbyists have a global agenda to push abortion onto countries that oppose it. Let us pray that El Salvador stays committed to the life issue and does not cave to pressure from the abortion lobby or from pro-abortion media. For this week's Pro-Life Focus, we're staying on the global front. New Zealand's parliament unanimously approved legislation last month that gives couples who suffer a miscarriage or stillbirth 3 days of paid leave if needed. New Zealand had an existing bill which provided leave in the event of a stillbirth only when a baby was lost after 20 weeks or more. This new bill now expands leave to anyone who loses a pregnancy at any stage. A member of parliament who drafted the bill says she felt it would give women the opportunity to grieve. Catholic writer and thinker Leah Libresco Sargeant shares with us her reaction to New Zealand's new legislation.
They're adding miscarriage to a bereavement policy that already existed. So this way, the loss of a child before birth is being treated the same way the loss of a child after birth would be. It's really a recognition of the humanity of the child as a person you lost, not just a medical problem that you're managing through sick leave.
Sargeant has been open and vulnerable about her previous miscarriages. She says that support from close family and friends has always brought the most comfort after a loss, and that she's been fortunate enough to grieve the loss of her children at home, where she says she's been able to spend their last moments with them.
As I was losing my children, I could take whatever time I needed to be with them. But that's not something I want to do in an office bathroom, to have that be the last moments I spend with my child being a part of me.
Let us all keep all miscarried and stillborn babies in our prayers, and their parents as well. While Catholics and pro-lifers are celebrating this New Zealand law that recognizes the loss of unborn life, I would be remiss if I do not mention how New Zealand contradicts itself by also holding up extreme pro-abortion laws. New Zealand just last year expanded abortion in the nation, permitting it up to 20 weeks of pregnancy and allowing abortion beyond that with the approval of a doctor. Acknowledging life in the womb should not happen only when that life is a wanted life. Let us pray unborn life is recognized and defended always. That does it for this edition of EWTN Pro-Life Weekly. Until next time, we'd love to hear from you. Find us on social media at EWTN Pro-Life on all social media platforms, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. We're there. You can also send us a message by emailing prolifeweekly@ewtn.com. We love to hear from you. Remember, life is a gift. Your life is a gift. God bless.